Hi, CB Voices of Color chapter community and our allies. We just want to say good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us today as we go into our Advent series of Men of Color in Advent. So last year we took a shot at women of color in Advent, looking at the contributions of women of color to the incarnation story. And just like we did for the women of color last year, this year we're going to start from the Old Testament. And next week we are going to go into the New Testament. I apologize for any technical details like visuals or audio that might occur. We're working from the barest minimum here, and just bear with me. So we're going to dive in right into it and starting in the book of Isaiah, because typically Isaiah is the prophet that at Christmas time, that's what everybody's quoting. And right off the bat, we're quoting from Isaiah, for unto us a child is born, for unto us a son is given, the government should be upon his shoulders. However, what we have never stopped to consider in this gospel story is who is Isaiah and where is he from? So the scriptures tell us that Isaiah arose this prophet, the son of Ahaz, who came out of the tribe of Judah. Judah being one of the sons of Jacob. I'm sorry, Jacob being one of the sons of Isaac. Isaac being the son of Abraham, the inheritor of the promise. Without going too much into Old Testament genealogy, all I want to point out is that the history of these people shows you that these are not folks of European origins. As a matter of fact, we know that they come from the ancient Near East. And what that means for us is that we're really looking at people of color, which are people whom typically today, much of Christianity does not agree with, and much of Christianity does not even perceive as being inheritors of the gospel. They're not seen as participants. They're not seen as partners in this gospel message. These people through which came. And this approach reminds me of the reason that Paul had to send a strict warning to the Gentiles in the book of Romans, when he was telling them that Gentiles, you are included in this promise. Nevertheless, it's not so that you look down on the people through whom the promise came. But that's what the European overspinning of Christianity does. It overlooks the people through whom this story came. So let's start with Isaiah. Isaiah being this prophet who is speaking in a time of trouble, in a time of hopelessness, and whom God is using to remind the people of Israel that, hey, I got this. I got salvation plan, and this is how it's coming, and it's coming to you in the form of a virgin giving birth to a son. So here is this man of color whom God is saying to tell us right off the bat, God is putting out a message. He's putting out a plan that involves a woman of color. So here is a partnership. The man is coming announcing the news. The woman is coming doing that, bringing that work into existence. And so we look through this and we begin to look in Christianity and in the world and in the activity of God in the world. What are the connections we can bring between this message of the proclaimer, the man of color proclaimer, and the woman who's bearing the deliverer? In Christian history, in human history, we have tended to silence the voices of the men of color who come out speaking for and advocating liberation or bringing forth a message that is different than which typically we have been used to, even in our own communities. One of the things about the prophets is that there are not always many prophets. However, their voice rings loud and clear and is speaking of a different story that sometimes we have to grapple with to try to understand. In our own time, we can connect with men such as Martin Luther King, who came with that story, who came with a vision to say, hey, I see a new day dawning. I see a new day coming forth, and my children, we were part of this history. But what happened to him? He was knocked off the scene, killed, and here we are in the struggle, trying to bring forth that new day, grappling again with our place in God's story. So I want to challenge us in this first part of our Men in Color Advent episode to pull back a little bit and look, trace the origins. One of the things that all scholars of Old Testament have to do, you always have to grapple with the context, the origin, the peoples, their geography, where they came from. We tend to dislook with it, but European spin of Christianity, mostly where racism is concerned, tends to separate this and makes it like the message just came out of the air and it comes to the Europeans and they take it and they give back to us. There is much complications when this approach is given to Christianity, where we do not study the messages from whence it came, from whom it came, and the places through which it came. And I want to say to us today, let's stop doing that. Let's look into the messages of God. Let's look at the people whom God used to bring forth these messages. Let's start to connect with them in the way that Apostle Paul encouraged the Gentile Christians to connect with the Jewish Christians, to hold them in their heart as theirs, not so much as people who have been disinherited, but people who are the progenitors of this promise. And so this is just our introduction, and next week we're going to go a little bit deeper and connect it with the men of color up to the time of the birth of Jesus, which proves to be very interesting, and we hope you join us for that. Drop us a note, let us know what you're thinking. This is from CB Voices of Color chapter saying happy Advent. God bless you.